everything changed in a matter of seconds. The final whistle blew, the season ended in bitter disappointment, and then the grim realization truly set in. The championship window, it's closing. Welcome to NFL Nexus. I'm your host, and before we dive deep into the tape today, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that like button on this explainer, and comment down below on what you think about today's breaking analysis. And hey, if you want to truly support the deep, documentary-style breakdowns we do here, consider becoming a channel member. It really helps us keep bringing you the heat. Today, we're taking a microscopic look at the intense, high-stakes reality of the NFL offseason. We're going to peel back the curtain on a brutal, uncomfortable truth of professional football. It's a world where loyalty is an absolute luxury, where past heroics guarantee you absolutely nothing, and where multi-million-dollar dreams can be extinguished with just a single cold phone call from the front office. In this explainer, we are breaking down the anatomy of a roster cut, and we're focusing specifically on the Buffalo Bills' massive, aggressive defensive overhaul heading into the 2026 season. Because right now in Buffalo, the stakes have literally never been higher.
In the NFL, the clock never stops ticking. Every single spot on the 53-man roster must be justified. I want you to take a moment and just let that sink in. 53 men. That's the limit. That is all you get to build a team capable of surviving the absolute gauntlet of a football season. When you're constructing a championship roster, you literally cannot afford sentimentality. You cannot afford to pay a guy for what he did 3 years ago. You can't pay him based on how many jerseys he sells or how much the fan base loves him. You can only pay a player for what they are going to do for you this Sunday, period. And the front office in Buffalo? They are currently operating under this exact ruthless philosophy. They are looking at every single man in that locker room right now. They're holding a magnifying glass to their production on the tape, their health history, and the structure of their contract. It is a pure numbers game. If you cannot justify your presence, you are gone. And that brings us to the ultimate, franchise-defining question we have to ask. Can Buffalo's massive defensive overhaul finally push them over the playoff hump? Listen, General Manager Brandon Beane isn't just tinkering around the edges this year. He's not just making minor adjustments or adding a little bit of camp depth. What we are witnessing is a desperate, do-or-die measure for championship survival. The Bills have tasted the playoffs. They know exactly what January football feels like in that stadium. But they also know the visceral, haunting pain of 13 seconds in Kansas City. They know the bitter, agonizing sting of falling short when it matters most, year after agonizing year. They've looked in the mirror and recognized that their defense, as it was previously constructed, simply wasn't enough to secure a Super Bowl ring. It wasn't tough enough or deep enough when the lights were brightest. So they have initiated a violent shift in their roster dynamics. They're tearing down the old walls to build an impenetrable fortress. But here's the reality of the NFL. To build that fortress, some incredibly tough, heart-wrenching decisions have to be made.
Part 1. The crowded room. This is the first major area of conflict in Buffalo's new defensive blueprint. We're talking about the newly reinforced and now impossibly packed safety position. When you look at how aggressively the front office attacked this specific position group in the offseason, it tells you everything you need to know about their state of mind. They identified a glaring weakness on the tape and they absolutely drowned it in talent. Just look at the heavy hitters they brought in. First up, C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He is your experienced, battle-tested veteran leader. Think about what he did setting the tone in Philadelphia and Detroit. He's vocal, he's intensely physical, and he brings a psychological grit, an undeniable swagger that this Buffalo defense desperately needs. He's the kind of guy who dictates the tempo of the entire game. Then you add Geno Stone to the mix. Last year in Baltimore, he pulled down 7 interceptions simply by reading the quarterback's eyes and brilliantly manipulating passing lanes. He rounds out the room as a hyper-intelligent turnover creator. He's a true ball hawk. Then you add in D. Elford for proven, reliable depth. You know what you're getting when he steps on the field. And finally, Jalen Kilgore. Draft experts around the league are already whispering that Kilgore might be the biggest steal of the entire draft. He's hyper-athletic, incredibly versatile, and the word out of camp is he's already pushing the veterans in the room during minicamp. The front office didn't just add camp bodies, they added game changers. They stacked the safety room all the way to the ceiling. And here's the kicker. All of this veteran talent is being brought in specifically to surround and elevate their rising star, Cole Bishop. Bishop is entering 2026 on the cusp of becoming one of the premier up-and-coming safeties in the entire National Football League. What's really fascinating about this dynamic is the man calling the shots from the sideline. New defensive coordinator Jim Leonhard is a former NFL safety himself. He literally sees the game through the eyes of the secondary. That's his DNA. Under Leonhard's tutelage, the scheme relies incredibly heavily on rotating coverages pre-snap to disguise their intent and confuse opposing quarterbacks. It is a highly complex, cerebral system. Bishop, along with the physical veteran Gardner Johnson, are actively being groomed right now to execute these complex rotations, forming an ultimate, terrifying starting safety duo for Buffalo. And when you throw Jalen Kilgore into the mix as the long-term developmental partner, you suddenly have a situation where there are 5 safeties in this building who could legitimately start on most NFL teams. It's a brilliant, highly aggressive roster build by the front office. But it creates a massive, immediate, and potentially devastating problem. Part 2, the Hamlin Dilemma. When you have 5 top-tier safeties locked in and fighting for snaps, the math simply stops working. Someone has to go. And the human consequence of this impossibly crowded room falls squarely on the shoulders of veteran safety Damar Hamlin. Look, we all know Hamlin's story. We all know what he means to the city of Buffalo, to that locker room, and frankly, to the league as a whole. His comeback is the stuff of absolute legend. But remember the cold truth we established at the beginning of this explainer? The clock never stops ticking, and sentimentality does not win you Lombardi trophies. $25,000. In the multi-billion-dollar cutthroat business of the National Football League, this number is chilling. Earlier this offseason, Buffalo signed Hamlin to a 1-year, $1.215 million extension. On paper, to the casual observer, it looks like a solid vote of confidence, a guy returning to his team. But when you dive into the microscopic details of NFL contracts, the language that actually matters, the reality is incredibly stark. Only $25,000 of that entire contract is fully guaranteed money. That tiny microscopic sum is the only thing tethering Damar Hamlin to the Buffalo Bills roster right now. If the front office wakes up tomorrow and decides to cut him, they carry virtually zero dead money against their salary cap. There are absolutely no financial consequences to moving on. And because of his vested veteran status, the mechanics of a release would be swift and unceremonious. It makes Hamlin one of the most financially vulnerable players in that entire locker room.
But let's be fair. It's not just about the contract structure. It's always about the tape. And when we look at the tape, it tells a tale of 2 entirely different careers for Hamlin over the last couple of years. Hamlin's 2024 season tells the story of a highly capable, aggressive starter. He played a full slate of games. He was flying all over the field, racking up 89 tackles, 2 interceptions, and a forced fumble. That is solid, undeniably starter-level NFL production. You can win games with that. But his 2025 season, it was completely derailed by a devastating pectoral injury back in October. Now, you have to understand the mechanics of the safety position. For a player whose primary job is to trigger downhill, flying to the box, and violently wrap up 220-pound running backs in the open field, a torn pectoral muscle is absolutely catastrophic. It ruins your ability to punch out, to aggressively shed blocks, and most importantly, to finish your tackles. He spent the year languishing on injured reserve, playing in only 5 games, and recording just 1 single tackle. 1. When you combine a crowded safety room full of hungry rookies and seasoned veterans, a contract with practically zero guaranteed money protecting you, and a season completely lost to an injury that saps your upper body tackling power, you have the exact textbook formula for a high-profile roster cut. Make no mistake, Hamlin is squarely on the chopping block.
Part 3, the void in the middle. Now, the tension in Buffalo isn't just isolated to the secondary. While the front office spent the offseason aggressively overflowing that safety room with talent, there is an immense, growing anxiety surrounding their linebacker group. If the secondary is an impenetrable fortress, the middle of the field is currently looking like a very vulnerable, wide-open plain. And the structural changes the coaching staff is implementing right now are only amplifying this immense pressure. Everything in football hinges on scheme. Defensive coordinator Jim Leonhard is actively installing a brand new 3-4 base defense. Now, for those who understand the deeply technical intricacies of a 3-4 front, you know that the entire system absolutely lives and dies by the performance of the 2 inside linebackers. They are the undeniable engine of the defense. They have to diagnose the offensive keys in a fraction of a second. They are stepping up to forcefully fill the A and B gaps right in the absolute teeth of the offensive line, while simultaneously bracing themselves to take on 320-pound offensive guards, pulling right at them in power run schemes. It is a violent, unforgiving, physically exhausting position. A 3-4 defense demands absolute flawless inside linebacker play. If those guys are late by even half second, or if they take one single false step off the snap, the defense gets gashed for 15 yards before anyone can blink. And this specific tactical shift is exactly why the current roster in Buffalo is setting off severe alarm bells. Let's look at the hard data. Up first is Terrell Bernard. He's a former 3rd-round pick. He's wearing a captain's patch. He is supposed to be the foundational cornerstone of this defense. But look at these numbers from his 2025 campaign. It is tough to look at. He recorded an alarmingly high 17.9% missed tackle rate. Think about what that actually means on the field. Nearly 1 out of every 5 times he had his hands on a ball carrier, a chance to end the play, they slipped right through his grasp. In a 3-4 scheme, a missed tackle by an inside linebacker destroys the structural integrity of the entire play. If you miss, there is literally no one behind you but the safeties. It's a 5-alarm fire. That unreliability resulted in an abysmal overall Pro Football Focus defense grade of 48.8, making him one of the lowest graded linebackers on the entire team. And remember, that is only when he is actually on the field. Bernard has proven to be highly injury-prone, missing 9 regular season games over the past 2 years. So you have a team captain tasked with running a highly complex, violently physical new 3-4 defense who struggles to stay healthy and struggles to finish his tackles in the open field. That is a fatal flaw for a team trying to win a championship.
Then you have to look at the guy playing right next to him, Dorian Williams. Another former third-round pick they invested heavily in. Let's break down Dorian Williams' true NFL reality. He is entering his 4th year in the league, yet he has never started more than 11 games in a single season. His career-high defensive snap share is only 59%. And last year, he was on the field for just 47% of Buffalo's defensive snaps. He was essentially a part-time player. Snap share matters deeply at the professional level. Playing every single down in the NFL requires an immense amount of physical and mental endurance. Your processing speed tires out when you are suddenly forced from a rotational backup role, where you're fresh, into a full-time starter having to read complex pre-snap motions on every single down. It wears you down. This begs a massive, incredibly uncomfortable question for the coaching staff right now. Can you genuinely trust a career backup, a player with incredibly limited full-time experience, to handle a grueling every-down starting role in a championship-caliber defense? The data strongly suggests it is a massive risk. Honestly, neither Bernard nor Williams looks like a highly favorable option to anchor the middle of the field for a Super Bowl run.
Part 4. The Gambles.
This dire situation forces the front office right into a corner. When your projected starters are setting off alarm bells on the tape, you have to look for high-stakes solutions to fix that vulnerable void in the middle of the field. You can't just sit on your hands. The Bills are currently weighing 2 drastically different, incredibly risky paths. They have to decide exactly what kind of gamble they are willing to take to save their defense. The first gamble revolves entirely around a single number, 9.92. What is 9.92? That is the relative athletic score, or RAS, of Buffalo's 4th-round draft pick, rookie Caleb Alarms-Orr. Now, this metric combines a player's 40-yard dash, their vertical jump, their broad jump, and their agility drills into one single comprehensive number to measure pure athletic traits. Out of a perfect score of 10, he hit a 9.92. To put that into perspective for you, that ranks him 26th out of over 3,200 linebackers graded since the year 1987. Think about that. Over the last nearly 4 decades, out of thousands upon thousands of professional linebackers evaluated, Alarms-Orr is the 26th most freakishly athletic player to enter the league. This number has the defensive coaching staff absolutely salivating. You cannot teach that kind of explosive, raw, twitchy athleticism. But there is always a catch in the NFL. At 6'2" and 234 pounds, Caleb Alarms-Orr is noticeably undersized for a traditional inside linebacker operating in a 3-4 scheme. Usually in this system, you want massive 250-pound block-shedding bruisers in those spots. You need them to take on those pulling guards we talked about earlier. It's simple physics. If a 320-pound center gets his hands squarely on a 234-pound rookie, that rookie is getting violently washed completely out of the gap. But his hyper-athleticism makes him the ultimate wild card. His sideline-to-sideline speed and elite lateral agility could theoretically allow him to dodge blocks rather than take them on squarely, shooting the gaps with lightning speed and masking his size deficiency. If Bernard and Williams continue to struggle during camp, do not be surprised for 1 second if this undersized, highly explosive rookie steps in and violently steals the starting job immediately. It is a massive gamble, but the upside is absolutely astronomical.
Or do the Bills take the other gamble? Because this is the ultimate front office dilemma. Do you bring back the veteran lifeline 32-year-old Shaq Thompson? He spent last season in Buffalo, and frankly, if we're being honest, he might have been their most reliable linebacker on the roster. He posted 56 tackles and 6 tackles for loss in just 12 games. But more importantly than the stats, he brings elite veteran IQ. He recognizes pre-snap motion before the play even happens. He calls the audibles. He aligns the defense. He raises the floor of the entire unit because he simply does not make mental errors. Or do you embrace the rookie upside? Do you roll the dice on the raw, completely unproven but generational athletic potential of Caleb Alarms-Orr? The risk with playing a rookie is blown coverages. A single misread against an NFL offense, a single misstep against pre-snap motion can leave a tight end wide open down the seam for a back-breaking game-losing touchdown. So what do? Do you choose the veteran who definitely won't lose you the game, or the rookie who might just possess the freakish ability to win it for you?
This is the agonizing, career-defining decision that is keeping the coaching staff awake at night right now.
Part V, the ticking clock. So, we have talked about the heavily stacked secondary. We've detailed Hamlin's precarious, unforgiving contract. We've broken down the glaring, massive holes at linebacker and the high-stakes gambles being weighed by Brandon Beane. But we have to bring all of these cutthroat micro decisions back to the massive macro goal of this entire franchise, securing a deeper, dominant 2026 playoff run. Time is running out to solve this puzzle. What this explainer brilliantly illustrates is a very harsh reality of the sport. Roster dynamics shift violently. When a general manager decides to aggressively upgrade a position group, shockwaves are felt throughout the entire building. And we are watching it happen in real time in Buffalo. Even players with notable, highly emotional past contributions face sudden, terrifying uncertainty. Let me tell you, your draft pedigree doesn't matter anymore. Your captain's patch doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the tape you put out today and whether you fit the precise schematic vision of the future. The human element is stripped away entirely. They don't call it the NFL for nothing. It truly stands for not for long. So we leave you with this lingering, dramatic question as the final deadline approaches. When the 53-man roster deadline finally hits, who actually survives the cut? Will Damar Hamlin clear waivers and settle for a spot on the practice squad? Will an undersized, hyper-athletic rookie linebacker absolutely steal the spotlight from a seasoned, proven veteran? Buffalo has pushed all of their chips right to the center of the table. The decisions made in the coming days inside that facility will echo all the way through January, and the fallout is going to be spectacular to watch unfold. Let me know in the comments below who you think makes the final 53-man roster. We love reading your takes. If you enjoyed this deep dive, remember to subscribe to NFL Nexus, smash the like button on this explainer, and consider becoming a channel member to support more premium deep dive breakdowns just like this one. Until next time, keep your eyes on the tape. The clock is ticking.